episodes of Horror with Donna and Eric. I'm Donna.
And I'm Eric.
And we have with us today Kurt Phillips for another Texas Author Con and Book Festival interview. How are you, Kurt? Welcome.
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So to get us started, we're just going to ask some fun little icebreaker questions. So tell us, Jason, Michael, or Freddie?
Michael. And
Okay.
it's all just personal preference.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure, Freddie'd be a lot more fun. Jason, I just don't like the camping as much. But Michael, he'll follow you anywhere.
Yes, he will. Yep, he sure will. Yep.
So do you have a favorite? I was just say, do you have a favorite Halloween?
The first one and then the second one. Was it the second one where they're in the hospital?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually think the second one might be my favorite of those two. I feel like the second one's got a little more, I don't know, a little more tension.
Yeah. And then later on, it's been so long since I've seen, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They
Right.
kind of all run together.
Did you see the zombie ones?
No.
Okay. That might be a good choice. You know, the way we discussed it when we did both of them, and we feel like it's a good movie, but I don't know if it's a good Halloween movie. You know what I mean? So if it was just a straight up slasher, it'd be great.
As far as like the Halloween, the second one, the Season of the Witch. Which one was that? Was that 3?
That's the third one.
Third one,
That's the third one. I loved that movie, although it has nothing to do with the franchise.
Yeah.
It's just a title. Like if they were going to do something like that for like just a crazy horror movie franchise of different stuff,
Originally, that's what Carpenter wanted to do. He didn't want to do. That's why he's not really a part of the second one. And that's like his second director took over and all that stuff. So it was supposed to be an anthology series. So if they would have done that, I'd have been all on board. I thought it would have been great.
Yeah, I'm surprised you like Season of the Witch because it has nothing to do with Michael. Everybody's got that song in their head, right? Can you hear it in your head right now?
Yeah, I can now. If I start humming it.
Yeah. So how about werewolves or vampires?
All right. I was watching you guys a few weeks ago. You did a breakdown of Dracula. And I got to tell you, it's a long answer. I've read Dracula. I read it every year, every October. And I have for probably 25, 30 years. So I've read that book more than any other book. It's my favorite book. Is it the best book ever written? God, no. I could teach a course on what not to do with that book. There are times when you're like, Jesus, Bram Stoker, are you getting paid by the word? Edit. But just in general, I started reading it. The next Halloween came around, I read it again, and now it's just kind of a tradition. So I just love that book. But werewolves are just more interesting right now.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, I get that.
They're tragic. Like they don't necessarily want to be werewolves. Maybe Stephen Graham Jones, Mongrels, that was great. That kid wanted to be a werewolf. But you just get to examine more the human element of it. And that's kind of what I like in horror, is just take something crazy and maybe supernatural and then watch everybody else react to it. That's kind of my favorite thing. So although Dracula is dear to my heart, I'm going to have to go with werewolves.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite werewolf movie or book?
Oh, American Werewolf in London.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
That's the way I grade all other werewolves, even great classic werewolves, like in The Howling and stuff like that. When I see the transition, I'm like,
Yeah. No, it's funny because when we did the Dracula episode, I knew about your love, and I figured, well, if anybody was going to bark back at us, it would be you if we weren't 100% on board with Dracula. So, but I agree. We have to revisit it, but for what it is, it's very good, and it set the tone for a lot of things. So.
Any criticism you have about Dracula is well warranted.
Yeah.
Like I get it, and there are some years where I might as well be doing the Cliff's Notes, because I'll just kind of whiz through stuff. And when, Van Helsing's just rambling after, Lucy's funeral, I'm just like, oh, okay, get done with this. And then you just turn the pages forever until he finally says, she's a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
The
get
one,
it.
yeah, the one part I didn't really like, and it got me to the point of thinking, oh my gosh, Bram, you are so wordy, is when they are going after Dracula, going back to the castle, and it makes it a point to say, and they got a side saddle for Mina. Like, who cares? Like, why do we need to know that? Like, we're gonna assume, because of the time period, that's how women rode horses.
It's probably one of those things. He was just like buttressing himself against trolls in like 1897. He's like, if I just write that, some guy's going to just start writing me letters. Well, she would be writing side.
Yeah, that's probably it too. And I mean, at the time, we look at all of his contemporaries. I mean, they were all writing that way. So I get kind of why he was doing that. So
It was a newer way of writing. It doesn't sound as dated as a lot of stuff. Like if you go back, whatever, almost 100 years to like Frankenstein. Mary Shelley, I think she did invent the genre. But when you're reading that, there is a language barrier.
Oh yeah,
we had
for
that
sure.
same issue.
It's not quite Shakespeare, but you kind of have to adjust yourself to it. But with the Dracula, might as well be present tense.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that because Frankenstein, so it's not just the language barrier of the time period, but also it was written in she's from the UK, so England. So then you have that different language between American English and English English. So yeah,
And
I
then
get that.
probably she was really wealthy too and hanging out with, aristocracy. So I wonder if that was
Yeah.
an issue.
Yeah. So American Werewolf in London is your favorite werewolf movie. So does that mean you prefer like a more wolf-like werewolf over a upright werewolf? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they got to be kind of feral. They got to be wild. And like I said, as soon as I saw that movie, I was like, oh, this is what werewolves are like. The people are tragic, kind of anti-heroes almost. Like you're rooting for them. You're rooting for David. He's the your favorite character. But but then they just can't help what they do.
Yeah. Yep, they can't, because I guess vampires in some capacity can help themselves. They do have this hunger that they need blood, but they have more thought process than a werewolf. A werewolf is just primal instinct.
Anymore, I think about vampires kind of the same way. Like as soon as I saw 30 Days of Night, I was like, oh, yeah, this is what vampires are.
Yeah, that's what they should be. They should be that.
They can't help it. They're not, Here's the thing that with the, and you can hear my werewolves barking in the background right now. Like with the, a problem that they get with, let's say, the Coppola's Dracula. And he ruined, I have a love-hate relationship with that movie because it came out when I was, 8, 19, 20, impressionable. Visually, it's stunning. It's probably the closest adaptation, one of the closest adaptations. But right off the bat, Coppola goes, oh, look, Dracula's in love. That's what motivates him. I was like, no, that's not what motivates him. That's not what happens in the book. That's not the monster that,
right.
We're trying to stamp out. To me, vampires aren't capable of love.
Yeah, that's the problem I had with the Coppola film too. It was way too romantic and shoved down our throat. And we know that that's not what he is. He's a monster, and he only cares about himself and his hunger. And
when you start rooting for the vampire, you've got a different movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might as well be Twilight.
Yeah. So Dracula, you've already said, is your favorite novel, and I skipped over a question, but that's okay. We'll go back. So that is a classic. Do you have like a more contemporary favorite horror novel?
Oh, yeah, it seems like my favorites of the last year or so. I was in a weird position where like everything on the Stoker Awards, I had read all of them, which is like the first year that's ever happened. Um, so like of the last couple of years, Reformatory, fantastic. Um, I don't know if I would call it horror, but Whale Fall, Daniel Krause's Whale Fall.
I've heard good things
Um,
about that. I really want to read that.
yeah, horrific, but I don't know. It's horror, you might find it in the horror section, maybe if it's misplaced. Um, I really liked Paul Tremblay's Head Full of Ghosts. That's one that actually scared me. Like I had to put it down for a little bit.
Okay.
Nice. Now,
Just something about the tension in it.
yeah. As a kid, did you have a favorite scary movie?
No, I was terrified of them. Like now, American Werewolf in London, that and The Thing might be my favorites. But as a kid, what year did American Werewolf come out?
82,
Like
I think.
Yeah.
81, maybe.
So I was like, 10 years old, 11, and they would show the commercials. And you know that one flash scene where he's having a dream and then he wakes
Hmm.
up and he's like got the white face? They would show that in the damn commercials. I had to run out of the room whenever that ad came on. That and vampires. They terrified me, but it was always vampire, like the Pharaoh vampires. To me, it was there's vampires in the sewer. That's what's going to come out and get me.
Now there's Chud in the sewer.
And then I hadn't read it yet. The
Oh
clowns in the
yeah.
sewer. For me,
Yeah.
it was just vampires. And I was thinking, all right, well, where would a vampire hide if it needs a coffin? Someplace dark, someplace
Hmm.
quiet. Sewers.
Yeah. That
That's the
makes
way my
sense.
mind worked.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. So as someone who might be new to reading horror, would you recommend they start with Dracula since that seems to be your all-time favorite?
It's a classic. There's so many different kind of genres and subgenres of horror. Like that'd be a good place to start. It's always good to read the classics. I would probably start there before I went even with Hill House, which I love.
Hmm.
But maybe if you're a big reader already, Hill House would be good. Um, but if you've never read, well, you got to go with the classic. You got to go with like Pet Cemetery.
Hmm.
That may have been the first horror novel that I read
Oh,
in
okay.
high school, and I think it was because it was the mid '80s. It's a lot like it is now. You can't, get away from Stephen King novels. They're
Right.
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
a really good
Everywhere,
one.
grocery
That's
store.
one of my favorites of
Yeah.
his, and I think it's one of the most intense. So it's a good place to start and just
Yeah,
dive in there. So
yeah,
I
Yeah.
and
think,
that's probably the one I would pick.
Yeah. Do you think that, you know, reading a starting off in the horror genre, reading the classics like Frankenstein and Dracula might be a little bit too heavy because of the language that was used back then? Do you think that might be like a deterrent maybe for someone to start off? I'm going to start reading horror and I'm going to read Frankenstein. Do you
Yeah, it
think?
depends on if they're a reader already, though.
yeah.
Um, because yeah, I've come to the realization since I started writing more, not everybody reads for fun. What is it like? 50% of the population just reads books for fun to read books. So if that's something that you do, if somebody came to me and they say, I love Jane Austen, what's a good horror novel? Frankenstein.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true, true. I've never read Jane Austen, so
Or Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. You could just slide right into it. They
I
already have a basis. So
yeah. Yeah.
do love those books. The movies are pretty good too.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
it's always fun when you get a good twist put on something that you're already familiar with. So
I think I like the Abe Lincoln one. Abe
yeah,
Lincoln
Vampire
Vampire
Hunter.
Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are vampires that are a little more. I mean, they're thinking about what they want. They're trying to take over things, hide in the shadows and stuff. But they were a lot more aggressive, monstrous. When they needed
Yeah,
to be.
they
And
were
I kind of
mean.
appreciated
They were
those.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's the love thing. They can't fall in love. As soon as they fall in love, I'm like, okay.
Not a
Yeah.
big
The moment
Twilight fan.
I've got a 19-year-old daughter, so when all those movies came out, I begrudgingly watched them, and they're fine. I
Yeah,
don't,
they're fine.
Yeah.
if that gets people into it, awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, if they watch that and they say, okay, what's another good horror movie? Okay, well then you can kind of ease them in and say, all right, well, here's Anne Rice.
And what's funny is the first one isn't really too. I mean, it's got enough to it that you can sort of categorize it as a horror movie. The first
Yeah.
one. It's got the angst and all the other stuff, and you can see it. But it's when they start getting really into the relationship side of it. A couple of 2 or 3 movies later, that's when it
Yeah.
really starts to get a little. They try and get the history and the vampires and the council and all that stuff. Then it kind of gets a little bloated. But that first one, you could almost pull yourself back. In the right hands, it could have been a terrifying movie.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
could have
yeah.
had
Those
that
bad boys
way
were too
more.
organized.
Yeah.
Like I liked 30 Days of Night. I think I liked the movie even more than the graphic novel. But I saw the movie first, but then I picked up the graphic novel and I was like, okay, well, these guys are a little more organized than I thought, but not that organized because they were still pissed off.
I think the movie's good. It's fine. I just wish it was a little more. I wish there was a little bit more backstory with the vampires themselves. I think that would added a little more weight. But as a survival movie against whatever the thing they're
Yeah,
surviving against, those vampires are terrifying. So it would, so that in itself is good. I just felt that it trimmed itself down because it was trying to hit that 90-minute kind of thing, when I
right.
think it could have held a little more time and given us a little more backstory and maybe we maybe a history of them revisiting this place or something just to give us a little more weight to the situation. But as a survival movie, yeah, it's very interesting and they are terrifying because they're more just monsters. They're locusts. It's just
Yep.
Yeah. Well, did you read the graphic novel?
I haven't read it yet, so I probably will get that information from there. Is what you're saying? So
Yeah, and it's not much, but there's a little bit of backstory, or at least alluding to it so that you know there is some backstory, whether they even get into it that much or not.
well, that's cool. I'll
You
go
know
check
it's
that
there.
out.
I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. So we got a couple of your covers here. For people who
Oh,
aren't familiar with your books, tell us about the genre that you write in.
I would say you'd probably find it in the horror section. The only brick and mortar place that I'm in right now is a Book People here in Austin, and it's definitely in the actually they've got it in the horror section and then in the science fiction thriller section.
Okay.
Hand of the Archer came out a little over a year ago. Um, First novel, first really time trying to publish anything. Um, and then I kept working on stuff and trying to do that sophomore effort and just failing miserably. Could not get it going. Um, and then I went back and started working on some more shorter stuff, and that seemed a little bit easier. And then I had a noise ordinance, which I'd written a couple of years ago, but I filled it out a little bit and just thought I got to put out something. Just this one's ready. I'll polish this one up, and I'm
Uh,
doing them all myself. They're self-published, so I can publish whatever the hell I want.
yeah.
I love the covers. Your covers are
Yeah.
great.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
both of them are very interesting. Your the things that you tap into. I can see easily how it would be science fiction, but of course it's all in my mind. Everything's horror, so you can see how it twists to it. But you do
Right.
have all these wonderful elements woven through, so it's not just a typical, straight up horror thing. There's some thought put into the stories, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
well, again, that's what I like to even when I'm reading stuff, and I read everything. But what I really am attracted to is when there's some supernatural force or some event
Hmm.
And then everything else is just, how would that affect the real world? How would people actually react to this?
So the
Yeah.
covers are pretty similar, black and white. Is that a theme that you're going to carry out through all of your books? I don't know. Are these the only two that you have out? I
Those
didn't.
are the only two I have out. I tried doing some other stuff, but I'm not that good with Photoshop.
Okay. So you did the
So
covers yourself as well.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
and
okay.
it
I
was
didn't.
ugly.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I did have someone, actually, Gabino Iglesias did an early round of edits on Hand of the Archer. I don't think you could get him to edit your book nowadays. This was before what was the big one he just had out?
The Devil Takes You Home.
Yeah. So he must have been working on The Devil Takes You Home when he read and edited the Hand of the Archer. But everything else has been me. Yeah, I did the cover. My wife is actually much better at Photoshop than me, so she helped me kind of cut and paste some of
Well,
this stuff. But it's just, iStock photo
yeah,
stuff,
but I
and
think
then
your covers
you
are
put it
amazing and
together.
Yeah.
eye-catching. So.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So I've read Noise Ordinance. Spoiler alert, because I might spoil it if anybody's watching that hasn't read it yet. And so I was like, oh, cool, there's an octopus on there. It's got to be something to do with the ocean, right?
Mhm.
Because I go into most books blind. I don't really know too much about what they're about. And as I'm reading, I'm like, this isn't nothing to do with the ocean. Like, what's going on here? And then I got into the story and I was like, oh crap, that's brilliant. I loved
Yeah,
that.
I don't want to mislead anyone with it, thinking, oh, it's like ocean themed horror.
Yeah. But if you read it completely, like if you read the story, you get why there's an octopus on the cover.
Yeah.
So it was pretty brilliant for that. So, and I got to say, I loved the interview at the end um, with, is it Nolan? I already forgot the character's name. Nolan.
Nolan Priest,
Yeah. And he was talking about,
aka Nolan.
yeah, talking about you. I thought that was just hilarious. The great way to end a story. So people, you definitely want to read this book. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah.
Yes, I have a copy and it's on my to-do list. I'm just so far behind on everything. So hopefully I'll have it read by Texas Author Con.
My TBR list is just enormous.
Oh
I've been
gosh,
making my
yeah.
way through the Done Texas.
Oh, say that again?
I've been making my way through the
Oh,
Done
yeah.
Texas. I've got that
Awesome.
one, so I just started reading like one at a time because I've got the anthology or the collection.
Yeah, it's got the first four
One.
stories.
Yeah.
So I'm
Very
making
cool.
my way through those.
Well, you can tell me what you think when you get done.
Yeah. So what's that? I don't know what's going on. So yeah, as I asked, are you gonna make all of your covers the same way, like black and white? Is that going to be, I don't want to say gimmick, but is that going to be like your calling card, we'll say?
If that works for now, until someone comes up with a better idea or has a better suggestion, um, I know for at least for Archer, I wanted it to be simple. Um, and then when I realized I was doing it myself, I realized it had to be simple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if it can look kind of classic, although I put it out and then immediately Stephen Graham Jones, The Only Good Indians came out.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, maybe someone will mistake my book for his and buy it.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
All right. It's the best way. Get it in their hands. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I realized, anytime I see elk antlers, I'm like, oh, what is that?
Yeah.
Elk are terrifying.
Yeah, no, I love your covers. So as long
Yeah,
as they
they're
still
great.
work, I think you should keep doing that. But yeah, like you said, each book is different. It may totally change the next time.
Yeah. I personally like when an author or a publisher has like all of their books have similar covers. Like for your Dawn Texas, they're all pretty similar, even though they have a different subject matter to them. They're all pretty similar. Evil Cookie Publishing, you just take a glance at a stack of books and you can tell automatically which ones are Evil Cookie.
Yeah, K-Trap does a great job. In fact, I was a little surprised that he started opening up commissions and doing other people's covers. Because I mean, he for
Yeah.
a while, I mean that you knew for a fact that was a Evil Cookie book because
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. But I think it's nice because then you can see like, you have this group of books and you can automatically pick out, oh, these three are Kurt Phillips, these three are Eric Butler, just because of the similarities in the covers. I like that. It's a good aesthetic for me that I like to see because I judge books by their covers.
As you should.
Yeah,
Everyone does. They say they
it's
don't, but they
important.
do.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I thought about it a lot when we finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to design this cover. What do you put on it? Do I put, for the Hand of the Archer, um, toad venom plays a big role. I was like, do I put a toad? Do I put several? Because there's several animals. I'm going to put several animals. And I stuck with that. And then when I got to noise ordinance, and this is like a weird trade secret. I don't even know if I should tell people, but it's probably mostly writers who are watching this one because noise ordinance is so thin. It's a short story. It's a long short story. It's about 10,000 words originally, but I wanted to go ahead and publish it, and I was like, okay, I can do that. But apparently, it's got to be a certain thickness. It's got to be at least 80 something pages to actually print on the spine.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to get it into a bookstore. So I was like, all right, well, how can I thicken this up? So I changed the font. It is actually a pretty good sized font, but I'm getting older too, so that helps me read. But that's actually where the interview came in.
Okay.
I was like, all right, what can I do to beef this up? And I'd read or listened to an interview with another writer, and he had done that. But he had an interview with himself at the end of his book. And he's like, it was a great way, especially with the ebook, because you can just put a link and tell people to go, review the book right there. I was like, that's a great idea. I started interviewing myself and realized I'm really boring. And I was like, well, maybe I can interview the main character. And then it just kind of turned into an interview with the inspiration for the main character.
I was gonna say I've spent an entire day. I spent an entire day with you in the library with that event with PC3, and you and I were there selling books. You were not boring. This guy's very interesting. So I was glad that he signed up for Texas AuthorCon, and I think it's cool that you're on the show. I enjoyed the entire day talking to you. So don't let him fool you.
So tell us, Kurt, what's your writing environment like? Do you have to have complete silence? Do you play music when you write?
Silence is good. Sometimes I'll play music, but it's got to be way in the background. An instrumental. A lot of times I'll listen to classical. I've gotten a lot of mileage out of Bach.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, well, it's just so measured and methodical and even, and I can put it on, and it kind of, for me, it just kind of restructures my brain. It's like defragments it, so I can actually focus on other stuff. So I'll listen to like the Glenn Gould, Goldberg variations. I actually mentioned in The Hand of the Archer, there's a scene where they're listening to music, and it's 100% an album. These three musicians doing Bach preludes on mandolin, bass, and cello, and it's kind of what I was writing this book to.
Oh,
that was
nice.
my soundtrack, and then I hit a point in this, where a scene, they should be listening to music here, and I was kind of, oh yeah, well, this is what they're listening to.
Let's just put some Bach in there. Nice.
But definitely instrumental.
Oh, that's great. I'm a complete silence kind of person, which explains why I don't write as often as I should because my house is never silent.
Use the headphones, like noise canceling.
I'm not a fan of that. I don't really like headphones, even though I'm wearing them here. I do that for the noise canceling for like my son noises in the house, and I don't want to have the like you know, the whole house listening to, what's going on, just to keep, because when I'm usually recording is at night when my son's in bed.
Mhm.
So, keeping it a little, keeping the noise down. And of course I have to wear these for work, because I'm in meetings and on the phone a lot. So, but yeah, I can't do this. Like, just I'm gonna sit here for 2 hours and write and have these noise canceling. I can't. I just can't. That has to be like complete silence for me.
Sometimes I'll put them on and just leave them off because it blocks everything out, and that kind of gives me tunnel vision. The other night I had them on, and then I was a little chilly, and I put on a hoodie, and I just pulled the hoodie down too. So I'm just like
Yeah, I've done
completely
that
closed
many a
off.
time. Yep. Headset
Nice.
on, hoodie up,
Mhm.
and just ignore everybody as they try and get your attention.
Yep,
Get blinders so
Yep.
you can only see like
exactly.
see in front of you. So of course, besides selling books, what are you looking forward to most about Texas Author Con and Book Festival?
Oh, just meeting and hanging out, like Eric was saying, when we hung out at that author festival there in where was it?
It's not Wolf City, but it's near Wolf City, and I can't think of where it was
Yeah,
now.
just out somewhere outside of Dallas.
Yeah.
Um, but we had such a good time. I had so much fun hanging out with you and Patrick Harrison and just meeting the other writers, Enigma.
Yeah. Yeah. He was
Yeah.
great. It was funny because there was like a handful of us from Texas Author Con who went to this library event the next weekend. So there was
Oh,
like
that's right. I
15
remember
of us.
that. Yeah.
And so it was just really cool to see everybody again. And then we met some new people. And then they had it broken up kind of the same way. We had panels and stuff, although we only had one person come to the panel for horror. So she got anything she needed. She had a whole bunch of questions. So she had our full attention the whole time. So, but yeah, no, it was a cool event. And it was nice that I thought we did pretty well traffic wise. It was a busy day and it didn't seem like it slowed down at all.
Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to. It's just meeting these other writers, a lot of whom that I, interact with on social media. Um, I've been trying to do that a lot. It's Austin's actually pretty good. Folks will come through on their book tours. Um, so over the last year, I got to meet, Sina Palaio and Daniel Kraus came. A couple of friends of mine from in town, Josh Roundtree. Gabino's always there. Everybody tries to tap Gabino to interview them. So, so I'm just
Nice.
trying to meet as many other authors, you know, and expand my tribe.
Yeah. It's always good. It's a nice way to, I found I'm a newer author and, meeting everybody, it's like meeting a new family, you
Mhm.
know. You've
It
got all
can be,
these,
yep.
yeah. Yeah, it can be. It's not always going to be like that with everybody, but
Yeah.
for the most part, it is. So Noise Ordinance is your most recent release. Do you
Yeah.
have any new projects you're working on? Anything else that might be out before Texas AuthorCon?
Probably not out before Texas AuthorCon. I should be finished with the audiobooks for them. I'm
Yep.
actively working on the audiobooks um, for those, as you can see behind me. Again, I'm doing all those myself as well.
Yeah, and I
Um,
heard him read from his book at the library thing. And as soon as I did, I said, you need to be doing your own audiobooks because he nails it. So I'm excited to hear that too. And I don't really like audiobooks, but I'm definitely going to check yours out.
I'm particular about audiobooks. There are things that I like and things that I don't like. Like if they've got a cast of people playing the individual
Oh,
roles, I'm not as interested. I want to hear one person.
Hmm.
I think I heard you. I was watching this episode, and you were talking about someone's thing, and they were doing weird accents. I think you'd listen to the audiobook for Dracula.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, trying to catch up because Donna is a machine and she gets everything done. And then I'm like always behind time. So I've had to do that with like 3 or 4 books, get an audiobook and listen while I'm doing other things just to hope to get the time
Yeah,
schedule.
I
So,
got to do
yeah,
something in the car, so I'll listen to audiobooks in the car.
yeah.
But I do like if somebody can pull off a good accent,
Hmm.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So so I'll be doing those myself. I'm always writing. I've got a couple of projects that I'm working on. I kind of feel like I always have to be no matter what I'm doing, what I'm working on, I need to spend some time doing first draft stuff because that muscle will atrophy on me so quickly that if I don't do that, it takes me twice as long to get back into it.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, that makes
Even
perfect
if
sense.
I'm editing something and I just focus all my time on editing that, yeah, it's great, it needs to be done, but then it makes it so difficult to get back into the first draft mode. And it's a
Yeah.
completely different mode.
Yeah.
Your
Mhm.
standards are completely different between those two. So it's something that I have to keep doing every morning, you know, just so I can keep those muscles sharp.
Yeah, it's
And then at
smart.
some point, yeah. And then at some point, I'll finish up the audiobook and I'll spend a lot more time getting the
Yeah.
first draft done.
Yeah. Nice. So besides stopping at your table at Texas Author Con, where can people find you and your books?
I'm on all this, well, I'm not on all the social media platforms, all the ones I can think of. Twitter, X, whatever it is. Tananari Do calls it shitter.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
So I'm there, and like everybody says, I'm leaving, I'm not coming back, and then nobody really leaves because we're all there. But I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. I try to keep that going as well. Um, if you're in Austin, you can always swing by Book People at 6th and Lamar.
Yeah,
I'm
I want to
well
make a trip.
represented
I want to
there.
make a trip to check that out because I think that's pretty cool.
It's a great bookstore, and
Nice.
they've been so cool. Because again, an independent writer. I'm not one of the big five, um, and they're one of the few bookstores that would actually work with me, and they're
Nice.
and they're great. So I can't
Yeah.
say enough about them.
Awesome. And I assume your books, you can find them on Amazon. Are you wide, like at Barnes and Noble as well, or?
Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. Actually, the new one, Noise Ordinance, is on all of them. BarnesandNoble.com, Apple Books, um, all the ones that I could even think of. The Hand of the Archer is Amazon, and I think I was trying to get it onto all the other ones, and then something got caught up, and those distributors are just really hard to get stuff going with. If you're
Yeah.
a publisher, working with like Drafted Digital or
Yeah.
Ingram Sparks can be like pulling your hair out. So
Yeah.
Archer is on Amazon, and will hopefully be on all the other platforms here very soon. And hopefully by the end of this summer, my goal is to have both of the audiobooks finished for those and have those available.
Cool.
Cool. Awesome.
So
So
might not
yeah,
be ready for any of the cons this summer, but I'll definitely be talking about it.
yeah. Cool. So yeah, we'll have links to Kurt's Amazon author page. Also, we can put down there in the description your I know you're on Instagram, your Instagram username, so people can follow you on there.
Which
Um,
honestly I would say it, but I cannot remember what it is.
That's all right. I'll get all the links and put it up there.
yeah. And we'll have a link to the Eventbrite so you can grab your ticket for our Texas AuthorCon and Book Festival. It is a free event, but if you get a ticket ahead of time, you will be entered to win some prizes. So we hope to see you in July. And Kurt, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on, and we'll see you soon.
I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me hang out.
Yep. Take it easy.